Welcome to the new podcast show, The Truth with Dr. Ruth. Join us in the chat room as she shares her personal stories and thought-provoking discussions on various topics. Feel free to explore these podcasts and join the engaging conversations. Invite a friend to our discussion that goes beyond conventional narratives, fostering a community where truth and understanding prevail on the podcast show, The Truth with Dr. Ruth. See you there.
Shadows of the Past, the African Slave Trade to Barbados and the wider Caribbean. The transatlantic slave trade represents one of the most harrowing eras in human history, characterized by the forced migration and enslavement of millions of Africans. Among the myriad destinations of this grim enterprise, Barbados emerged as a pivotal site for the cultivation of sugar, fundamentally altering the economic landscape of the Caribbean and the lives of countless individuals. This seeks to explore the complex dimensions of the slave trade from Africa to Barbados, focusing on the socio-economic ramifications, the lived experiences of the enslaved, acts of resistance, and the enduring impact on Barbadian culture and society. The origins of the slave trade. The genesis of the African slave trade can be traced back to the age of exploration in the late 15th century. European powers, driven by a quest for wealth and resources, began to navigate the coasts of Africa, initially seeking gold and spices. However, the discovery of the New World transformed the economic motivations of these nations. The establishment of lucrative cash crops, particularly sugar, in the Caribbean created an insatiable demand for labor. As plantations flourished, the British, Portuguese, French, and Dutch turned to Africa for a solution to their labor shortages. This marked the beginning of a horrific system that would lead to the forced migration of over 12 million Africans to the Americas, with Barbados becoming one of the first British colonies to adopt large-scale slavery. The journey of no return. The Middle Passage, the harrowing sea journey from Africa to the Caribbean, was a journey of despair and suffering. Enslaved Africans were captured, often through violent means, and transported in conditions that defy imagination. Ships were overcrowded, with individuals shackled together, battling diseases like dysentery, smallpox, and other infections. The stench of sweat, vomit, and filth pervaded the air. Many did not survive this brutal journey. Estimates suggest that approximately 15 to 20% of those on board perished before reaching the shores of the Americas. For the ones who did survive, the Middle Passage was merely the introduction to a life of subjugation and exploitation. Life in Barbados. Upon arrival in Barbados, newly enslaved Africans were thrust into a system built on their labor. The sugarcane plantations required extensive work, and the enslaved were forced to labor from dawn until dusk, often facing harsh punishments for any perceived disobedience. The brutal regime was overseen by white plantation owners and overseers, who wielded absolute power over the lives of the enslaved. Families were frequently torn apart, with individuals sold off to different plantations, erasing any semblance of community or familial bonds. Yet, amidst this oppressive environment, the resilience of the enslaved was evident. They found ways to preserve their cultural heritage. Through music, dance, and oral traditions, they kept alive the stories and customs of their ancestors. The blending of various African cultures resulted in a rich tapestry of traditions that would eventually contribute to the unique Barbadian identity. Resistance and resilience. The struggle for dignity and autonomy among enslaved Africans in Barbados manifested in various forms of resistance. While many found subtle ways to defy their oppressors, through work slowdowns, feigning illness, or sabotaging equipment, others engaged in overt acts of rebellion. The most notable uprising was the Joseph Pitt Washington Franklin and Boossa's Rebellion in 1816, who led a revolt that involved hundreds of enslaved individuals. Though ultimately quashed, this rebellion underscored the desire for freedom and justice among the enslaved population. Such acts of resistance were not mere acts of desperation, they represented a collective yearning for dignity, autonomy, and the right to shape one's destiny. Legacy and remembrance. The legacy of the slave trade continues to cast a long shadow over Barbados and the wider Caribbean. The socio-economic structures established during slavery led to entrenched inequalities that persist today. Plantations, once symbols of wealth for the colonial elite, have transformed into historical sites that reflect a troubled past. The cultural impact of slavery is deeply woven into the fabric of Barbadian society. Rich traditions of storytelling all bear witness to the resilience of African heritage. In contemporary Barbados, there is an ongoing dialogue about the importance of remembering this history. Efforts to educate future generations about the realities of slavery are crucial in addressing the lingering effects of colonialism and systemic racism. Memorials, museums, and cultural programs aim to honor the memories of those who suffered and fought for their dignity, ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. Conclusion. The slave trade from Africa to Barbados is a profound and painful chapter in history that demands recognition and reflection. It serves as a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for both cruelty and resilience. The stories of those who endured unimaginable suffering and the cultural legacies they left behind are essential in understanding the complexities of modern Barbadian identity. By acknowledging this past, we not only honor the memories of those who suffered but also work towards fostering a future grounded in justice, equality, and mutual respect. The shadows of the past may loom large, but they illuminate the path towards healing and reconciliation in a society striving to learn from its history. Thank you for listening, and remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Therefore, you would not miss out on new content.